Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fantastic episode of The Left Wing. I am TJ Whitehead, power taken, not given, joined as always by John Cooper Paz of Counterpoint Politics. How are you doing today, my friend?
Doing all right today. Been a busy day, TJ. Apologies to our audience. We're going to have very basic graphics today because John's company's website went down and he didn't have time to do anything else today. So it'll be good though. We're going to talk more Alex Pretti, more ICE, some Democrats sort of folding, sort of not folding news that came in like 30 minutes ago. I don't know if you saw it, TJ.
No, I did. That's going to be fun to see. I gotta see that's the Democrats force folding somewhat, and kind of that's their thing.
It's one of those moves. So essentially, for those unaware, there was a government shutdown fight looming, and you could kind of tell that the Democrats weren't really going to do anything here because you'd hear more news about it if so. But there was a government shutdown deadline looming for tomorrow. But it has been kind of punted. Basically, the government shutdown is being punted significantly, but the DHS funding is being given a 2-week deadline in order to kind of continue to hash out those negotiations. So sort of nothing happened. It's not really news in either direction. I guess we'll wait to see in 2 weeks if they get Republicans to budge at all. But what do you think of this? I'm kind of two minds about the Democrat strategy to try to rein in ICE as opposed to abolishing them, because on one hand, abolish ICE is the only position that you could possibly legitimately have. On the other, they don't have the power to actually do that, but they do have power to maybe get some concessions, and so maybe they should fight for them. About it, TJ. What have you been following? Kind of that negotiation that's been going on in Congress?
No, I remember seeing something about this that they stated their stipulations were that ICE had to increase the training they had involved there. They had to specify who they were catching and how, just basically putting more barriers around what ICE could do and everything like that. I don't know specifically like what you mean when they said that they cannot abolish ICE. I'm assuming they don't have the votes for it, is what that
Yeah,
means,
I mean,
because Congress absolutely could.
theoretically, Congress can abolish ICE,
Yeah,
yes, but
yeah.
that's not. No one is thinking that that's a realistic, feasible possibility in the year 2026. So that what I'm saying is, on one hand, it looks weak to look for concessions when really the only goal should be abolish
No,
ICE.
you know what? No, I just in the last 5 seconds, I just
Okay.
changed my mind on this, saying that they shouldn't run on abolishing ICE. They 100% should. And I thought of this just now because Republicans, I've been following politics pretty closely for about 30 years now. I cannot remember a time the Republican Party did openly, brazenly, and confidently state they were going to abolish the Department of Education. They can't, right? They're not going to, but they say it every fucking day. And if you cannot actually abolish ICE, do what the Republicans are doing with the Department of Education, saying, look, maybe we can't get rid of it, but we're going to do everything within our power to weaken it and make it ineffective and vanish it from any sort of influence in the American public. So that's my statement there. I think that they should run on abolishing ICE. Maybe they don't have the votes for it, but weaken it anyway. You can keep doing it, and then it lets the public know and your constituents we mean business about this.
Yeah, honestly, the biggest lesson, one of the biggest lessons that Democrats should learn from the Republicans here is just stop listening to annoying people that don't matter. I feel like MAGA has learned, oh, if we just do whatever the fuck we want, and just continue to message the things that make sense to the vast majority of people, we'll eventually win them over. Whereas the Democrats will be like, oh, we should abolish ICE. And then some think tank will say, oh, well, that's not a very feasible real. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit?
Yeah, yeah.
Promise the moon and do everything you can to deliver, regardless of how feasibly possible it is. It has worked for Republicans my entire fucking lifetime. They continue. I'm just going to little diatribe here, TJ.
Yeah.
Republicans on paper should not be able to defeat Democrats. It makes no
No.
fucking sense. If you look at the history of my lifetime, every single time Republicans have been in power, we have had declining economic metrics by every fucking way you can look at it. And every time Democrats have come into power, we've had bettering economic metrics by everywhere you can look at it. And the economy is really all that people really give a shit about. So really, we should be winning way more than 50% of the time. We should be winning 75, 80% of the time with the track record we have. And somehow we manage not to do it. And people like to point to, oh, America's just racist, whatever. That doesn't matter, guys. If they can figure out how to manipulate the dumb racists, we can too. I really hate that fucking excuse for why Democrats suck. Oh, we're too morally superior to everyone else. No, we're not. No, we're
Well, listen, I agree about the not being morally superior part, and that even if that's the case, even if you are morally superior to your opponent, that and a few dollars gets you a cup of coffee. It doesn't matter, right? You have to
Yeah.
find some way to counteract that, because they're not wrong. The racism part is honestly the primary reason the Republicans do keep their coalition. I don't know if you guys out here know this, but at least when it comes to the presidential vote, the Democrats have not won the white vote since 1964. 1964 is the last time. Even we talk about how that's why it's really funny to me when they like to reference the country can't be racist because we elected Barack Obama with two huge, overwhelming victories. That's true. He still lost the white vote. Like the most popular president in any of our lifetimes that we can imagine still did not get 50% of the white vote. So which is it's astounding to think about that actually. So the racism does play a really big part. It's true. But like John said, you have to, counteract for that. In fact, when you started saying that by all logic, the Democrats should be winning, I wrote down racism. That's exactly what I wrote down, and then you addressed it. But it's true, it's there. But you got to factor for that when you're running these elections. You can't just dismiss it because you're supposedly a better person than these folks. You have to find a solution.
But hold on, TJ, I want to like throw something out there here because racism, it's something that we just sort of accept, right? But
yeah,
why does that matter? Like, if you're a racist, right, and you look at the two political parties, I don't think they're looking at like marginal policy and going, oh, well, this is going to suck more for black people. Like, what is it about Republicans that the racists fucking love that the Democrats can't just fucking copy, besides being outwardly racist? But like, I don't think that covers most of the racists who vote for it. Like, I don't feel like outward racism is a calling card for most of those white people voting for the Republicans. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
I don't. Well, I mean,
why can't the Democrats manipulate the racists in the same way the Republicans do? It's not like the Republicans are getting out there and going, "Yay, racism! Fuck black people." What are we missing here? How can we, without being racist, activate the racists on our side?
I don't think there's a way to do this, John. I don't. The best way you could possibly do it or the most effective way you could possibly do it is to be a Bill Clinton style Democrat, right? Bill Clinton was a very not quite as popular as Obama, but extremely popular. He won like Arkansas and Tennessee. He won a bunch of southern states and everything. And what was Clinton's whole thing? Welfare reform. Because he knew that the southern white racists out there, they had a real thing stuck in their craw that all these black folks were getting this free money from the government. So Clinton says, we're going to attack this. We're going to head straight on and say, listen, we are not going to just start handing these freeloaders a bunch of money. They're going to have to work for it. And guess what? He lost the white vote too. So, I mean, I'd love to know there's some way that the Democrats can, without explicitly or implicitly being racist like the Republicans are, that's what they have in their pocket. And yeah, I don't think that your average Republican gets up in the morning thinking, oh, how can I screw over black people? I don't think that happens. I think that it's like we talk about that identity politics, specifically racial identity politics, that only applies to non-white people. White identity politics is just Republican politics, and no one calls it what it is. It's not stated to be racial identity politics. It is, but they don't think of it that way. So yeah, I don't think they're racist. They are, but they don't think of themselves that way.
What would you think of just copying them, like culturally copying them?
Well, what does that mean, though?
I'm saying get rid of. I'm trying. So here's the real thing I'm trying to get down into here, TJ. It's not a policy thing. It's a culture thing. I don't think that there's anything stopping Democrats from building a culture that attracts the type of Republican who isn't outwardly racist, but definitely votes Republican because of cultural racism. I feel like there could be ways to attract those people without having damaging policy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'd love to know what that looks like.
Yeah,
I would love to know what that looks like, because the people who try this can get success. Like Obama and Clinton are such great examples of this, because what we mentioned with Obama all the time, Obama never made a big deal about the fact that he was the first black president. When he ran for office, he never talked about it. You didn't see him as this hard charger for black issues specifically. I mean, he wasn't. He was a very standard politician who had a lot of charisma, and still the attacks on him were, I mean, I was older than you at the time. I just remember how common this stuff was, that it was all racially motivated. So no, until I see this actually work and win a majority of the white vote, I don't think it will happen. I just like to see, if someone can show me an example of this, I would love to know. But I've seen a lot of people try. I haven't seen anyone successful.
If you listen to, there's a specific group of Blue MAGA, the Black Blue MAGA community. They fucking hate Bernie Sanders because they call him racist. And I wonder if there's a reverse engineering we can do there, because I don't know. I feel like there's something that can be done culturally within the Democratic Party that can make them not be. I don't know. It's a struggle, TJ. I'm trying to put a fine point on it, and I hope you understand what I'm saying here. But I don't know what the answer is.
Here's the problem: is that the Republicans are right when they say that when you're more homogenous, it's easier to put forth a united front. It absolutely is. That's the kind of the drawback the Democrats have. That if you look at the demographics that make up the Republican Party since the 1960s has been 90% white Christians. That's their bread and butter. To this day, it's like 80% white Christians. If you're a white Christian, that is the party for you. If you're literally anybody else, the Democratic Party is the party for you. It's actually kind of shocking to look at the breakdown. I was amazed when I saw it that the Democratic Party is about 15% black people. The United States is about 15% black people. It's about 15% Hispanic people. About 15% Hispanic people. The Democratic Party is about 60% white people. United States, about 60% white people. It is shocking how close to the actual populace that the Democratic Party represents, which is great if you want to represent who actually lives in the nation. But it's kind of hard whenever you're putting forth a policy for everyone, because there are specific goals that all these groups have that don't always overlap. And sometimes they don't converge in any way. Sometimes they're diametrically opposed to each other. So the Republicans just put out a simple message for white Christians and everyone's on board with it. That kind of screws Muslims, Jews, people who aren't in that. So if you just start copying that, you're going to start pushing aside a lot of the people that are important to the coalition. Then the kind of Democratic Party kind of ceases to exist anymore, or exists as a direct cultural opposite to the Republican Party. So yeah, it's kind of a trap, I think.
That is tough. A couple comments here before we move on to I see what clip you're pulling up here. First, Colby, can't we tell them if we abolish ICE, the money can go to Israel instead? Surely Schumer and Jeffries would jump for that. I thought that was a good comment. And Colby also says, as soon as John's age starts with 3, he's getting the TJ age treatment until we can. Yeah, but Colby, DJ's age has like 3 fucking decimal places in it, so I gotta wait.
Oh my god, yeah. Mine starts with a 4.
TJ. I apologize to my whole audience. You
could have just said, "Well, TJ starts with a 4." Why are you jumping on John? Well, John
it's terrible. It's terrible.
It's all right. It's all right.
I deserve it.
I'll rescue you here. Not answer this question, John. But Hugh Jass says, "I never understood that. Why do moderates like Clinton and Biden get more support from black people than Democratic socialists who represent actual change?" Listen. There's a very simple answer to this question, Hugh Jass, is because black people are culturally conservative. That's really the answer. This is like the black population, the black voting population, is a major chunk of the Democratic Party. Like black people vote, the black people in the United States vote with the Democratic Party. I think it's 85% of the time. It is the most reliable voting block. Ironically, John, you know who the second highest voting block is?
No.
It's Jewish people. Jewish people vote 75% of the time. So me and John, we got the whole thing covered here. We got the.
I'm actually surprised that the Jewish vote isn't higher, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ! Like number two, that's not bad. You guys can't let us have anything, John. Jesus, you're still upset about this. So yeah, Jewish population in the United States votes 75% Democrat. Black
I've never
population,
met a Republican Jewish person. Like I've met Republican black people. I've never met a Republican Jewish person.
Yeah. So and that's almost entirely because for economic reasons, like almost entirely for economic reasons, and which is but you're talking to, especially older black voters, you start talking to them about social issues, you start talking to them about gay marriage, you start talking to them about trans stuff, you start talking about the church, it's going to get mighty conservative, mighty fast. And so, yeah, that's the reason that the Democratic Party, you're never going to see like a huge segment of the black population in like a trans rights. I don't like that. I'm not a big fan of that, but that's the reason that you see it that way. And let's
also, TJ, because you brought it up there, sort of like the cultural conservative, it's also the church is a big
huge. Church is huge, yeah.
Specifically, black political power structures in a lot of cities that I've helped organize in, it's very church focused in terms of just the levers of political power. Now, how does that extend to the entire nation? I'm not entirely sure, but like that is a huge leverage in the black vote in any city, and it just doesn't really, it's going to be conservative culturally. So what are you going to do about it?
This is actually a complaint that I've had about liberals for a very long time. That if you start talking to people in the Democratic Party or, leftists, anyone, left of center in any fashion, the most hated person in these groups is going to be your, gun-toting, pickup truck driving Christian conservative. They talk about the church and their like MAGA pastors and everything, about these stupid idiots. I can't believe that they're worshiping and they're using this religion to, corrode the nation and everything like that. Black churches, however, they love it. Black churches that are politically involved. Oh, these folks are the salt of the earth. We really need. Well, basically what it tells me is that, these white people, they should know better that God's not real. This is all nonsense, and this is all a corrosive social effect. That's very obvious. But, black folks, I mean, what can you do? Black folks, of course, they don't believe in this superstition. That's what it looks like to me. And it's true, John. That's why you're laughing. That is exactly how they treat it, right?
Damn, that is so accurate, TJ. I've never thought about that, but it is totally the noble savage.
Yes, 100% noble savage.
Wow.
Yeah, they love it. Like, black folks, they love themselves a preacher. That's why we need Martin Luther King and why the Reverend Jesse Jackson. I mean, they just push this all the time. You had like a white preacher come up and try to take a political stance or run for office. You guys are, don't you know about the Johnson Amendment? This is separation of church and state. You guys should know better. They do the same thing with Muslims. They do the same thing that, we can't criticize people, the right-wing Muslims for that stuff. These folks are good, honest people. They're God-fearing folk. But white people, come on, you guys know better. You're smarter than this. That has always bugged me, and it's a constant thing. Right, we got here. Well, there's Ben Shapiro.
I've never met Ben Shapiro. So when I said I've never met a Jewish Republican, that is true. Although I really feel bummed not thinking of Ben Shapiro when I said that.
I'm sorry, I get covered.
Huge ass you broke, TJ. And his beautiful sister, Abby Shapiro, as well. Can't forget.
Oh, okay. All right. I was looking away from the computer screen at the time, so you said you broke TJ and his beautiful sister. Hey, leave my sister out of this, John. What the fuck, man? What do you get started to talk about my sister here? But all right. So moving on real quick. I just wanted to, this clip here I wanted to show you, John. I saw this on Threads, and I was going to tag you in it, but instead I decided to bring it on the show because John and I
are like message me on Threads because I don't think I follow you.
Oh yeah, well I don't post, so there's no reason to. I think I have like 2 posts on Threads. I think
Post, TJ. This is the new
I
future.
do. I
It's so
do. I
much
should get
easier
a.
than fucking videos.
So, but I saw this video, and John and we always like to go out of our way to acquiesce and just straight up admit that Trump is hilarious. One of the greatest comedic talents I've run across in my entire life, and this clip is him talking about the presidential cabinet press conferences that he has. I don't know if you've ever seen this, John, but I think it's from today, and he talks about all the news reports that he falls asleep during his press conferences, and I thought this was fantastic. Here we go.
We're not going to go through the whole table. This is the last time we had a press conference. It lasted for 3 hours, and some people said he closed his eyes. Look, it got pretty boring. I love these people. I love these people. But there's a lot of people. It was a little bit on the boring side. I just closed them because I wanted to get the hell out of here. Some of them, I didn't sleep, by the way. I don't sleep much.
John, I love it. I love it. I was laughing so hard when I watched that because a lot of times Trump will lie when he doesn't need to. He say he makes a simple mistake, like the time he said that the hurricane would hit Alabama when it was only going to hit Florida or something like that, and he took a Sharpie and drew around the map showing that it would. Everyone knew it was a lie, but he just did it anyway. He just wanted to save face. I would have expected him to lie right there. I think everybody else did too. And Trump said, "Nah, fuck it. It was a boring meeting." And so I fell asleep. Wait, what do you want me to do, folks? Like, the meeting went on forever. They kind of trapped me here. I wanted to leave. And so I kind of just closed my eyes. I thought that was pretty great.
That was pretty great. And like, that's why Trump appeals to people.
That's 100% why.
You watch that clip and you're like, yeah, you're right. This shit is boring as hell. Like, and that was, by the way, you can tell the difference between fake laughter in Trump's cabinet. Like, Trump's cabinet meetings are a big dick eating competition, right? Like, we're all aware of this. They're all just glazing their dear leader. But like, that was genuine laughter. Like, the people in that room were genuinely laughing because it was genuinely funny. And that is why Trump appeals to people. And I want to be very clear to Democrats out there. That does not mean being funny is what appeals to people. You can't just be funny. You can't just try. If you're not funny, don't fucking try it. It's going to go very badly for you. Just be who you are genuinely. Just react in situations. It doesn't have to be all the time, but a significant amount of time. Just react like a normal person, like you normally would if you weren't a politician right now, and you'll have the same fucking, not the same success as Trump. That's reaching high, but you'll have similar success to Trump.
Better success than you would trying to be someone else. There's nothing more painful than watching someone who's clearly trying to act a certain way or attain a certain affectation when you know that's not who they are at their core. And Trump just happens to be funny. Like, he is who he is, and who he is an entertaining and funny guy, which is how he gets votes from people who aren't terribly politically engaged. He has more personality than any dozen random politicians you can find, and it happens to work for him. Speaking of funny, this is a clip I wanted to share with you, John. This is RFK, and the clip, it's not real, but that's important. I wanted to get this video and see what you thought about this.
I'm declaring war on fat gay kids, not the kids themselves, but on whatever's making them so fat, gay, and pathetic. I'm talking seed oils, SSRIs, MSNBC, and perverts masquerading as teachers and guidance counselors. Sorry, but as an educator, you can't show off your extensive collection of marital aids anymore, okay? America isn't a dance school, a video game competition, or an OnlyFans academy. It's a country. And with the help of President Trump, we'll be focusing on eliminating the things in our society that are turning our kids into effeminate weirdos and skanks.
All right, John. I love this clip. I actually saw it a long time ago, like a couple weeks ago, I think. And it's been sticking in my head ever since then because one, that is fake. Just so you guys know, the RFK never said those actual words. But what jumped out at me is two things. The first is that yeah, it's not real, but that sounds exactly like every Mac person you will ever hear, right? I mean, that like no exaggeration, that is literally what they think, that our kids are fat, gay, and effeminate. And if we got rid of the seed oils, that could right all the wrongs that we have in this nation. And I wrote down as a note in that video, I want to get your thoughts on this. Is Maha the dumbest subset of MAGA? Are the Make America Healthy people again like the dumbest subset of MAGA? What do you think?
So I would say the Maha people are probably like the peak of the Dunning-Kruger effect. I wouldn't say they're the dumbest because in order to be at the peak of the Dunning-Kruger effect, you need more intelligence than that like starting ramp, right? Like the real idiots tend to know they're idiots. The Maha people are idiots who think they're not idiots, and that is dangerous. Those are the most dangerous people you can get. I feel like Maha is the quintessential part of the people who will go into an emergency room with their fucking like son who's dying of something and tell the doctors that they can't operate on them because they heard in a fucking podcast that it might cause retardation later in life or something like that. That's the kind of people who are part of the Maha movement. They think they're smart, but they're still idiots. However, they are still smarter than the true idiots who know they're idiots. Those people are just more wise.
Really? Huh? The people who know that they're idiots, I figured they would be less likely to be idiots. If you know you're dumb, that says something about you, right? That's how I always saw it.
I feel like okay, so we're like just using words here. So like
okay, true. Yeah.
But in my mind, when you're talking about like how smart someone is, that's intelligence.
Okay.
Whereas something like that, like knowledge of oneself, that's wisdom. You know, it's the thing that you acquire over time, whereas intelligence is your processing speed and power, right? The wisdom is the accumulated knowledge and understanding. The intelligence is the ability to quickly process information. So I would, when I say that, I mean the Maha people, like the real true dumb idiots. They don't even fuck with Maha. Like they're like, I don't even want to read about CETA.
Okay. Right? Okay. Yeah.
They don't even try to fuck with like science or whatever. They're just like, I believe what I believe because I believe it, and I'm not going to think too hard about it. The Maha people think really hard about it and arrive at all the wrong conclusions because they're idiots, but they think that they aren't idiots because they're thinking hard about it. Does that make sense, DJ?
Yes. Yeah, it does. The Maha and an example you brought up there is when they get mad if it's never their case. It's always the case they heard about. A doctor says they can't have an operation or they do an operation. And they bring up, if I have a kid who's sick and the doctor says there is like a 0.7% chance that this surgery is successful and it will cost $10 million. We're not going to do that. I'm sorry. Like there's limited resources. We're not going to do this. And they try to pass these laws. Like you'll see Republicans or libertarians try to pass these laws. They're called like right to try or right to experiment laws medically, basically so quacks can get their unproven medical treatments approved and that they can, rob people of millions of dollars and everything. So they say an example I remember a long time ago is that there's some sort of a cancer surgery that American doctors wouldn't perform because it was quackery and expensive quackery at that. And they found out, well, I can actually go to Italy and there's a doctor there who will do it, but their insurance wouldn't cover to something like that. And every time they gave an example of this, it was always to a country that had universal health care, which is funny, which is like, wait a minute, I thought these places were hellholes who just let people die. They're the death squad or the death panels and everything like that. And also, you can tell that the Maha folks are, I actually wrote down a few of these because of what do they focus on? What is it? Your entire thing is that I want United citizens, United States to be healthy. And what is their primary things? They want pure cane sugar in Coca-Cola. That's what's going to make you healthy. Or banning red food dye. They don't like vaccinations. Beef tallow for French fries. It's taking fluoride out of water. It's always like weird ancillary stuff that doesn't really get you anywhere and certainly doesn't make millions more people healthy. At the end of these 4 years, we're going to just be fat, stupid, and lazy as we were before. But no one wants to talk about that because that takes actual work. So you go to weird quack RFK Jr. who knows nothing about this stuff, but he spins a good story about evil corporations and everything, and they think it's fine. And they support like Luigi Mangione with nothing. That's the thing that gets me, is that they don't really have a goal. You can't have a goal like what do you want to look for the accomplishments of the Make America Healthy Again movement next year to prove that our health has actually increased and they got nothing for it?
See, TJ, you're misunderstanding the Maha movement. The goal is not to make America healthy, and this is a common misconception, TJ. I know that's the name of the movement.
That's the name, yeah.
It's not what the goal is. It's like the Nazis weren't actually socialists, right? The goal of the Maha movement is to make idiots feel smarter than doctors. That's the entire goal. That's why they focus in on these weird conspiratorial small little things, because one of them is going to be right, TJ. Whatever it is, eventually one of them is going to be right. And I'm sure RFK has already pinpointed. They occasionally they'll do some things where they'll say something that is correct that maybe we do. I'm trying to think of an example.
I got one.
But like they will say some things that we know, or they'll say things like, "Oh, well, America's unhealthy because we're all obese," and it's like, "Well, yep, that's true. That's true. How do you want to fix that? I don't know. Fucking seed oil shit. No, that's where you lost it. But the reason they do this is because they just want to feel smarter than doctors. And if they were to actually they're not smart enough to, disprove medical science and the pillars and institutions and the very intelligent doctors who do a lot of work to do a ton of very rigorous research to determine what is healthy and what is not healthy. They just want a quick, easy thing to point to say, well, those doctors, they're idiots because of this. This is the real thing. And they don't actually do science. They don't actually do academic. They don't do rigorous research. They just want to feel smarter than the people that do without any understanding of how they come to their conclusions.
Yeah. The example I was thinking of with this, it's not necessarily a Maha thing, but it is a right-wing coded conspiracy thing that, this happened during COVID. And I don't know, everyone on the right was choosing their character when it came to COVID as to what COVID was. COVID was either bullshit and fake and gay, and no one's actually dying from this. This is just a common cold. That was a common one. And then COVID was a bioweapon released by the Chinese to kill everyone, or COVID was actually manufactured by Big Pharma to kind of trick people into buying, or trick the governments into buying vaccines and infuse much money, whatever their thing was. But the thing that they like to say was that, hey, I think COVID started as a lab leak in Wuhan, China. And people said, okay, you guys are just trying to push forward this neo-Cold War propaganda that the Chinese, for reasons unknown, would release a virus that would kill everyone, including themselves. Which doesn't make any sense. So people try to fight against that and say, no, it wasn't released in the virology lab in Wuhan, China. But I remember thinking, that's not a crazy suggestion right there, actually. That it's not insane to think that this lab that specifically was made to study viruses and do gain of function research and everything, maybe it got loose. I don't think it was on purpose. I don't think it is a racist conspiracy to say, well, this virus happened to come from this one city that has a giant virology lab. I don't think that was a coincidence. I think they're right about that one. And I think evidence is kind of more and more pointed to that since the time. But the official narrative was that wasn't the case. And I guarantee they're running with that these days.
Oh, I remember thinking when people were shitting on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, okay, I'm not saying that they're right about that. I also agree with, they're trying to start some Cold War shit, but it seems like a pretty realistic possibility. Yes. And if we say, no, you're racist idiots for thinking that, it's going to look really bad on us if that turns out to be the case. And that's exactly what they say now. They're like, oh, well, you're the people who said we couldn't say it was a Wuhan lab leak virus or else we'd be racist. And it's like, first of all, I didn't say that, but I have to live with all the fucking comments of the people who did because of the asshole fucking liberals who were like, oh, it couldn't possibly be that. It's like, you're just as wrong as they are. You're just as wrong as saying it can't possibly be that. I'm saying it definitely is.
I said that from the beginning too. I said, listen, I don't know one way or the other, but I'm not going to say someone is insane for putting forth that theory. I think it's insane to think that it was purposely leaked. That doesn't make sense. But I was so happy when I heard Jon Stewart addressed this. I don't know if you saw this, John, but Jon Stewart addressed it and said, yeah, I don't think that's a racist conspiracy. Like, if there was this explosion of chocolate somewhere and you're in Hershey, Pennsylvania when it happened, I don't think it's, insane to think, well, maybe, I mean, it just kind of makes sense that this came from here. And so, yeah, I thought the same thing with that. And Colby, gotta give a shout out. I love a joke that takes some effort here. Favorite foreign-based virus named after a martial art. The Kung Flu is what he's referencing there. And that, I thought that calling coronavirus the Kung Flu is very funny. This is one of another, like, racist jokes can be funny sometimes. And Kung Flu, that was pretty good. I remember them saying that or chanting it and everything.
It's not even like, I wouldn't even like classify that. It's a racial joke without being like,
well, come on.
Derogatoriness to that. Like, it's from China. China invented Kung Flu. It's like if we called it like it was an Italian virus and we called it like SpaghettiOs because it was O-shaped. Like I don't know. Like
SpaghettiOs.
That's another common cultural export of the same place. The virus.
That's great. Oh man!
If we called it the squinty eyes virus, that would be racist. But Kung Flu, I think that's okay.
All right, I thought Kung Flu was pretty funny, I have to admit. Okay, so this kind of goes into what I was getting at with the conspiracies and everything like that. There's this kind of two parts here. So I saw this chart a few days ago, and it's probably hard to read for you, John, or for the viewers out there. So I'll go ahead and talk about what it is. It says education is the new fault line in American politics. Republicans won 14 of the 15 least college-educated states, and Democrats won 14 of the 15 most college-educated states. So you see on the far right here, the most college-educated states in order here. And so, going down, you got Massachusetts, Colorado, New Jersey, Vermont, Maryland, Connecticut, Virginia, New Hampshire, so New York. And then on the bottom here, you've got the least college-educated states, West Virginia, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, KT. What the fuck is that? That's not a state. Kentucky. I thought it was KY. It was Kentucky. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe they fucked it up. I don't know. Oh, yeah. It's a typo because KT and T is right next to the Y. Kentucky. Yeah. Oklahoma. Yeah. So, which is not a shock to me. That's not terribly surprising, especially how much Republicans love to shit on college education or any type of education past high school and everything like that. But here's a theory that I've been working on for a long time, John. I want to know what you think. I think that, like this chart says, the real divide we talk about, black and white or urban and suburban, the actual divide in the United States is college educated and non-college educated. You can predict 1,000 different things about a person's life, their personality, their interests, pursuits, all based on whether they went to college. And that is not only because of the education. And yes, going to college does make you more intelligent. Like by every metric, you're going to be a college educated person on average is going to be smarter, more intelligent, more informed than someone who didn't go to college. That doesn't mean the person that went to college is less of a human or less valuable in society, but they're not as good at thinking. Like college does a good job in turning you into a critical thinker. But even beyond that, college is where you learn the culture and mores of professional life in the United States. You learn what your network is supposed to look like and how you're supposed to act in how you're supposed to be perceived in society, and where you will be taken seriously in the upper echelons of society. It teaches you that. And in college, if you don't go to college, you miss out on a big part of that. So it's why when we, once again, it's like an elitist or whatever, but when you talk to people who have, not only did they not go to college, which is one thing, but they're actively fighting against the concept of college in general, it seems so foreign and so strange and so base and crude to a lot of us. So what I'm proposing is that we have two internets, John. We have two internets, and we have an internet for college educated people, and you aren't allowed to use the non-college educated internet. And then you have the non-college educated internet, and they aren't allowed to go to the college educated internet. Just split these people off, and I know my life would be better. I know I would be more sane and more stable if I never got to go into the depths of what these folks are talking about on there. They can have their fun. They can do whatever they want. They're not going to have the know-how to actually functionally actualize something. And I think the nation would be better off. Well, what do you think?
So, I mean, obviously that's infeasible, but I if it could happen, I do think it would heal a lot of shit because the fucking college educated people, they wouldn't like see us have our educated academic takes that confuse the fuck out of them, and they're like, oh, I don't like that, and we won't, and by we I mean the college educated Republicans won't be able to as easily manipulate them to
No, yep.
it would be beautiful. It would be beautiful. I don't know how we could actually make that work. It also, like, I don't know, probably fucks with some very important free speech principles, but I do think it would work. The college education thing is such a divide. We've definitely talked about that.
Huge.
Like, you don't learn unless you are like going to school for something important, like being a doctor or some shit. Like the thing that you're in college for is not for whatever the fuck you're studying. And if you're an undergrad, even whatever you're studying doesn't really fucking matter. Like it's irrelevant. What you're learning is how to function in corporate America. Like that's really what college teaches you. And if you don't get that, you can still succeed in corporate America. It's a lot harder. And the other thing that college teaches you is like just like basic functions of how to learn, how to find correct information. And I mean, that's really what the conservatives struggle with. I mean, it's why we see that graph. I really don't understand, TJ. I mean, I guess this is why fascist movements always bash intellectuals and academics, because they realize if people become educated, they're not going to go with the fascism movement. But like, I really don't understand how just like your typical average, especially like younger person that hasn't hit college yet, like looks at that graph and doesn't go, something's up here. Why is it good? This doesn't. Why would I pick the less educated side? That doesn't make any sense. That seems really dumb. I don't even. It's hard to even fathom why anyone looks at that graph. And they'll do the same thing, TJ, where they'll be like, oh, look, college is a bunch of liberal professors. And it's like, have you considered that maybe the reason the professors are liberal is because they spend time studying shit? Have you considered that just for a second?
Yeah, they have two options in front of them. They have two options in front of them. They see that going to college makes you less conservative. There's an inverse relationship between how much education you have and how conservative your thoughts are. And this is consistent 100% of the time. In no chart will you ever see it flow the opposite direction. And what I find interesting is that becoming more educated makes you less conservative is even true amongst conservatives. That's the part that I really fucking love. That when you have a conservative who has, a master's or a doctorate or, basic undergrad degree, I guarantee you that person is going to be less conservative than someone who graduated from 10th grade and never went anywhere else. That person's going to have much more wild base, absurd views. So you're faced with two solutions here to this problem if you're a conservative. Either one, conservative thoughts do not stand up to academic scrutiny. That's option one, right? It can't be that. So it's option two, it's a satanic conspiracy because Satan is real, of course. You all the stuff that you learned, these old wild tales and superstitions you learned as a kid that people believed 500 years ago are true. And that, somehow these demons have gotten control of these institutions and they're turning all of your kids into Marxists because Marx was a demon as well. That's really all it comes down to. And it also plays into, John, you say you don't understand how they don't see it. I do, because you know what else tracks really, really well with not having a lot of education? Being religious. That also is stamped. That is the exact same metric that the more educated you are, the less religious your beliefs are. So if your entire life, especially growing up, an American right-wing Christian, that you think that everything is a conspiracy. Like, these scientists went to school for years studying climate or studying paleontology or biology or something. And they're telling you, yes, evolution is real. The earth is well over 4 billion years old and, gender is a spectrum. Okay. They're too smart. These folks are obviously not idiots. They know that they know how to think. They know how to craft ideas. They must be lying for the devil. I mean, you've probably heard this. I've heard this so many times. Like I sometimes, back when I did videos more often, like sometimes you have a video that would go viral and you'll find it on a different platform. Like I'd find a video of mine that was on, the wrong side of Twitter, and I see a bunch of conservatives commenting on it. I cannot tell you how many times I wrote, okay, this guy sounds smart. He doesn't sound like an idiot. I wonder why he's spouting all these lies. They just think that you're bullshitting and you're lying because it has to be some sort of conspiracy. That's my guess on it, at least.
So a couple things here. One, wanted to before we moved off the college thing, Colby asked, "Do you learn about gang violence statistics?" And
watch out, John. Watch out. Gang violence. We know what happened the last time someone tried to answer.
To learn about on a college campus. Statistically, you might get shot. But the other thing here, TJ, this is really just like, I don't know. Maybe this is wrong. Maybe this is wrong of me. But I really don't trust highly educated religious people. They are among my least trusted groups of people because I kind of get the inverse of what you just described, where I'm like, you have a master's in theology. How does that exist? How can you do this level of academic rigor with something that doesn't have any actual foundational proof in any other academic scenario? Those are like the least trustworthy. Like immediately my walls are up. I'm like, I don't trust you. I can have a long conversation with them. It's sometimes quite enjoyable, but I will just never fucking trust them as far as I can throw them.
All right. We're going to continue on. That's a great thing. We like to welcome Destructo Jugo to the pod. How are you doing today, my friend? You came in a great conversation. It's going to be so much fun.
Thank you guys so much for shit. Do you guys hear an echo?
I hear you fine. Oh, I don't hear anything in the background now. Oh no, I hear an echo.
Okay.
I do hear an echo. Yeah.
Yeah. What is there? Hold on.
Sorry.
I'm running into a little bit of issues,
right,
guys. Sorry.
Just give us a thumbs up when you think you're ready. I'll take you down.
I don't even know why there's an echo.
Weird.
I'm not hearing an echo. So
is anybody getting in trouble?
You know
fine.
Whatever.
Wait,
yeah,
is
whatever.
It
it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. I think that if we're all talking, that we would notice because I'll notice it. But okay, so we were just talking about how conservative people are apt to believe in conspiracies and everything, and a big reason for that is religion, and that religion is keeping them locked away. And John brought up that he doesn't understand how there are highly educated religious people. That I've wondered this, like when I
just do not like they are one of the most least trusted segments of society. Like it's an immediate like, I don't trust you, bro. Like you're doing something funky.
Wait, like educated as in like formal college educated.
Exactly, like highly educated, like people who have a master's in theology and shit like that, where it's just like, how the fuck do you do this? How do you learn how to learn and then miss how contradictory your world
that is a fantastic question really to ask. I think it depends largely on how we frame institutions, and I think there's like a large dependence. It depends largely on like where they went to school, who taught them, like the type of teachers these people have, how their education was shaped, and really most of it goes down to compartmentalization. I know some of the smartest people with degrees, with like real, for some reason, have compartmentalized their understanding and the knowledge that they've gained in those fields and put them in very specific boxes that only pertain to their like the profession itself, and then like remove any context for the information that they did learn in order to hold on to their worldviews. I think a lot of people, generally speaking, hold on to their worldviews for dear life. And I think if it's one of those situations where you've begun to identify not by necessarily the things you've learned, but the things that you believe, I think that can shape the entire framework about how you process the new information or anything that you learn throughout your life. And I don't trust them either, honestly, because it's like, I don't get how that works. How do you learn some shit and then throw it out the go when it doesn't pertain to your belief system?
I have so much to say about this. I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
I was just gonna agree with that. So go ahead, DJ.
Yeah, I have so much to say about this because I left religion behind while I was in school in Bible college when I studied and found out more and more. And whenever I talk to people who went to seminary, I am amazed any of them still believe a word of this because if you know someone who went to seminary, they fucking know. They absolutely 100% know how the Bible is put together. They know the history of the Abrahamic God. They can tell you the history of Near Eastern religions dating back to ancient Mesopotamia and how that directly translated over to Judaism and Christianity and Islam. They can tell all that, but they said, no, I still think there's something there. I they aren't all lying. They aren't all lying that they believe it, but it does make them. And Hugh Jass brought up a great point here, like Dan McClellan being a Mormon. I don't know if you guys know who Dan McClellan is. Do either of you, are you both of you familiar with him?
The
course.
name is recognizable, but I'm not.
Dan
putting a face to
McClellan
it.
is what's that guy? I know the name.
Yeah,
I
you guys would
know-
know him if you saw him. He does a lot of videos talking about what the Bible says. He likes to wear like superhero T-shirts a lot
Yes,
and everything.
hi, I'm
Yes.
Dan McClellan. He's
Yes.
Mormon.
He's a Mormon. Listen. Dan McClellan is incredible. A lot of times, whenever I would talk about religion, and I would say something like, I get really annoyed when people say that.
Great.
Okay, yeah, and I do the video and I say something like, I get really annoyed when people try to claim the Bible isn't homophobic, and they'll point to a verse that says that a man that sleeps with a man should be put to death, and they say, well, that's just a from the King James version, and that the actual Hebrew says that if a man sleeps with a boy, he should be put to death. I'd say that's bullshit. That's not what the original version says. The original version says that both people should be put to death if this happens. So why is God killing the kid if he's protecting him for everything? And people always comment at Dan McClellan. Dan McClellan, what would you think? And I would go to Dan McClellan's page and found a video he ever talked about it, said the exact same fucking thing. Dan McClellan is great. Dan McClellan knows exactly what he's talking. Yeah, and he's now going on this big tirade of being against ICE and against all of the stuff that the administration is doing. He's a Mormon, man. And people ask him all the time, buddy, Mormonism is the most obviously and hilariously untrue religion in modern culture. Like, it's Christianity with 500 more pages of bullshit, and we all know it. Like, people have done historical studies into, is this the Garden of Eden was in Missouri or something, and that there was all the stuff with Joseph Smith, who was a professional con artist, and we went to jail for being a con man and everything. And it's bullshit. But Dan McClellan, he'll say, well, people don't ask me like what I believe about the Mormon faith. It's like, I think he's lying. I think he's like, he worked for a university or something, and that he has to say he's Mormon because he's always like, Bible's not true. It's all made up. It's all man-made superstition, going and so forth. But no, he is a Mormon. But that is a good point right there.
I knew he was some type of religious. I had no idea that he was Mormon, and I knew he was some type of religious. I thought he was some type of Christian, and I found that to be okay, largely because within the context of like how he talks about the Bible, I always assumed that his personal belief was that we all negotiate with the text in our own ways, and we just pick which ways make the most sense to us. That makes sense if you're like any one of the Christian denominations. As a Mormon, I don't even what text are you negotiating? The text itself is fucked. At least with other forms of Christianity, I could say I could look into how they were created, and sort of the value that they brought to the followers, and how you can hold on to the specific belief systems found there without adhering to the sort of archaic principles. Mormonism guy, that I ain't gonna lie, I wish you hadn't told me that. It doesn't make me lose any respect for him, but it just confuses me more.
A little bit. Come on, a little bit. There's no way you can have maximum respect for a Mormon, man. Like Dan McClellan. Listen, Dan McClellan. I know more about the Bible than anyone you will ever meet, and Dan McClellan knows more about the Bible. He's forgotten more than I will ever know. And I still have no problem calling him out and saying, buddy, what the fuck? Because I'll tell you, right. Yeah. This is what you can say. If you're talking about, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, Christianity, Islam, like religions that are so fucking old that they might as well be myths and legends and everything like that. But if you're practicing Mormonism or Scientology, like stuff that was like religions founded by people born in hospitals who have like birth certificates. It's insane. I don't know how you can possibly take this shit seriously. So yeah, Mormonism is just really funny. I think that maybe he was raised Mormon. He doesn't want to say he's not one, but you know what? This does for any value we can get from this is that we can't win it on our own as atheists, right? We'll need people who at least say they're religious. That's going to help out a lot because people are going to trust them a lot more in the first place, I think.
So a couple of notes. First of all, Colby says, "Yeah, we believe you. You were there when the passages were written." So good one there, Colby.
No, it wasn't. That was a lazy one. That wasn't good at all. Don't pat him on the back for that, John.
Kyle said, "Love Dan McClellan. You can be Mormon and separate your beliefs from study." And so, Kyle, I don't know if this is specifically what you were going after here, but I know that Kyle is Buddhist, and Kyle is someone who I think is pretty well educated and religious in that sense. And I've always considered Buddhism to be like sort of a religion. It's not a religion in the same way Christianity is. It is much more similar to a philosophy than a organized religion with churches and shit. But I do kind of respect, hey, all beliefs are dumb. We got to pick one, and this one gives me the most comfort. I don't know Dan McClellan as intimately as you guys do, but I have seen him talk. I do respect his approach, but I never hear Dan McClellan say shit like try to prove that Mormonism is true.
No,
it seems to me that he's just like, this is what I choose to believe, and I recognize that all belief systems are belief systems, no matter how scientifically rooted they are, and this one gives me comfort and happiness, so this is the one I'm going to choose to believe in. And that I can respect. That is the type of highly educated religious person that I can get along with. I trust you. You're cool. Sure. It's the ones that try to take a level of academic scrutiny to prove that their religion is the one true religion.
Dude, those are the worst.
I'm just like, I don't trust you, bro. You're too smart and too dangerous.
Yeah, because there's no scientific basis to prove a religious belief system. I think this is one of the big contradictions that I've never really understood why, like, especially now in our modern times, people have been obsessed with like rectifying. Like, if you're a Christian, Muslim, Jew person, whatever the case may be, it actually looks worse trying to sort of like find a scientific basis for your belief systems than just letting them be belief systems, because you're going to end up in a lot of logical holes. You're going to end up doing a lot of bending over backwards and gymnastics, intellectual gymnastics, trying to prove a position that ultimately, I think, for me, will just make me lose respect for your intelligence, because I'd like to separate intelligence from education. Anybody can have an education.
We just talk about that. It's funny.
If you are somebody that is using your education and the sort of position that education has granted you, and the words that you used, and the sort of means of debating that you've gained from your experiences within the school system or whatever the case may be, you're using it to hold on to and to defend positions that you know somewhere deep down inside, like whether you recognize it or not, are like incompatible and illogical. Gang, I'm sorry, you're educated, but that's not intelligence. I think there has to be some level of like personal investigation in the validity of your belief system. If you're wanting to prove them, like if you don't care about proving your belief system, you don't have to interrogate them as deeply as somebody who cares about proving your belief system. But if you're trying to prove your religious belief system and you're not truly interrogating the logic behind it, gang, that's intelligent. That's education. You could have a master's, you could have a PhD. That is not real world intelligence.
Yeah, Dan, one of his biggest issues with Christians are the apologists. And for those of you who may not know, apologists are people who it's their career, like William Lane Craig or Frank Turek, people who their entire raison d'etre is to defend specifically one type of Christianity as being true. They act like it's a debate, but it's not. They're up there to say that my version of Christianity is not only true, but it's scientific and it's real. And here are a bunch of surreptitious and insipid arguments to try to make it sound like Jonah living inside of a whale for a great fish for 3 days and being spit back up is actually scientifically possible. Like it's ridiculous. It's crazy. And so Dan McClellan really hates that. He says, listen, just be honest with what the text says. And now that's hard. Now that makes your job a lot more difficult, which is, I got to give credit for him still saying that he believes all this stuff when all he does is say, yeah, this is bullshit. It's nonsense. I don't know. I couldn't say it with a straight face, unless, it's my job, my paycheck depended on it. But I wrote down here that, Ate, you were talking about how, these beliefs, like if you have some sort of mystical belief, just own it, right? Just trying to say that I'm going to find a way, like to find mana on the periodic table and act like this is a respectable venture or something makes you seem worse than not. And this is true. And I know John will appreciate this. I'm pretty sure Ate will, but it's cooler if you don't do that. And a great example to point to is the Force. The first 3 Star Wars movies, right? You just had the Force. It was this weird religious thing that had magic powers, and no one really thought too much about it. But then George Lucas comes along and says, they're midichlorians that are responsible for the Force. No, that
microscopic organisms in your fucking blood.
it makes it 1,000 times less cool. It answered a question not a single person asked, and it cheapens the hero's journey too, because it's not about bettering yourself and your mind and your spirit and connect yourself with nature. Nope, it's in your blood. You might as well have been born a professional baseball player. And it's like that makes it a lot more lame. So I don't appreciate that. We went off on a big tangent like that, John, and I wanted to. John, that tangent started because of something I saw you post, and so that's we're coming back to John's threads again, because I was on the other day looking that. So we're talking about someone who did go to college and who is a Christian and won't shut the fuck up about it. Is Candace Owens, and Candace Owens, she went to college, but not as smart as we'd like to believe, because she posted this the other day. We all went through a giant storm, so we'll talk about that. But she posted this yesterday, I believe, maybe the day before, and she wrote, "Back online after internet blackout. I grew up in Connecticut, and I've truly never seen ice like this ever. The temperature is 30 degrees, but the ice on our treetops is not melting at all. Never seen anything like this. Anyone else?" And she doubles down on it. "I will take a video to show you guys what I mean, but it's almost like dry ice, and it's taking an absurd amount of trees. Again, 30 degrees and none of the ice is dripping from the trees." Now, John, I'll go to you first. Could you care to share what the melting point of what the freezing point of water is? I'm curious what it is.
Well, actually, I looked into this, TJ. It's actually weird. Like, how like water is one of the few elements that when it freezes, it actually expands. Well, it turns out that at 32 degrees, it freezes, but then at 30 degrees, it unmelts again. It's actually fucking crazy. I can't believe that's one of those posts. We've all had dumb posts. We've all posted something that was dumb, immediately called out as dumb, and it's like, oh fuck, I really, it might have been a typo, it might have been whatever. Like if she had been meaning to say 30 and accidentally said 32 and like was confused about what a freezing point was, I see. But she went 30 and then she wrote it again. She wrote 30 in 2 posts and was like, guys, I've never seen anything like this. And then didn't delete them. And kept it because I saw that and I was like, oh well, maybe it was just like I don't know, it was the morning. Shit happens, Not that I like being charitable to Candace Owens, but I was pretty sure. I was like, there's no way when I go look, because I saw screenshots of it. I was like, there's no way this is still gonna be up, and it was. She was living by it, TJ. She was like, yep, 30 degrees. It should be melting right now.
I can't lie. I gotta respect it. Candace Owens is one of the conservatives who the stupidest shit comes out of her mouth and she just be standing on it. And you know what? Good for her. Fuck it. Right? You know what I mean? Like everybody's probably in her comments like, bro, you're such a fucking idiot. And what about it? She said it's 30 degrees and the ice hasn't melted. She stood on it. Who's going to get her off that? And that's
I wonder if she did it on accident and then stalled the reaction it was getting, was like, all publicity is good publicity, and just left it up there.
I think that's
I guarantee that's what happened. She probably forgot or didn't know, or she forgot, must be, or was misinformed about, because I tried to be charitable at first too. My first thought was maybe she's thinking metric system. I think she grew up, I don't know. I think she grew up in the islands, which I think they use Fahrenheit too. But I was like, maybe she's thinking metric system. I was like, wait, 30 degrees Celsius is like a warm day, right? Like that's certainly not that's certainly not freezing temperature, so that can't be right. So I was like, no, that can't be right either. As that she just must have forgotten or not known what the freezing point was, which is a mistake anyone can make, right? Anybody can make that mistake. That's fine. Even doubling down on it is funny. But what I found hilarious is that when people were calling her out on this, I went and saw what she posted. She went in a coward's route. I thought she said, oh, well, I didn't mention it in that post, but due to the material construction of my patio and the trees and everything, it's always 10 degrees warmer there than it is in the regular, temperature. So I'm used to it melting. I was like, Candace, come on. Like that. Yeah, she did. Because it's like, oh, so we're supposed to have an intimate knowledge with the temperature of your back porch for some reason. Like that makes sense to you? Of course it doesn't make sense to you. Just own it. You've said things 100 times more embarrassing. We'll get to those in a second on a daily basis. I don't know why she backed out on that. But did you see that, John?
Stand on it.
So I didn't see that, but like you're right. Like if she would have said, yeah, guys, like usually the temperature when it's 30 degrees out, the ice is usually melting from the tree because of XYZ. I don't know, it's close to the sun. I don't give a shit. Like that's a thing that happened, right? Like that. That's a thing where like it's 30 degrees outside.
Yeah,
but
it can happen.
Of my yard, the ice melts, and this one doesn't. Like, yeah, I get that, and you tweeted it, and just recognize how funny that tweet is. Just own up to it and be like, yep, sounds really dumb. You don't have to like defend yourself. Just be like, yep, hand up, that was dumb. I understand why that was dumb. It's really funny. This is what really happened, just so you know, but it was dumb. My bad, guys.
When has she ever like walked back anything in that way?
I'll tell you, I want to ask you this question. I want to ask TJ this too. On the pantheon of conservative commentators, would you say that Candace Owens is one of the dumber ones or one of the smarter ones?
Damn, that is a fantastic question because I don't even know how it even defined. Because I mean, they're all just really stupid. Even the ones that are like speak well and put up good arguments. I mean, by the virtue of the positions that they hold, they're all idiots. But I'd say Candace, even among them, is pretty on the lower. She's probably stupider. Probably on the.
All right, yeah. So I agree, and I think if anyone disagrees, these next few clips I'm about to play are going to solidify this argument once and for all. This is my nail in the coffin to Candace Owens being an idiot. So Candace Owens, she and Lauren Boebert, they're the two I can think of. There used to be this talent/modeling agency. I can't remember what it was called, but I don't know if you guys seen the picture of it, that both of them when they were younger, there's all these pictures of them in this like modeling agency trying to get work and everything. And Boebert ended up being in Congress, and Owens ended up becoming a conservative commentator. A lot of conservative talent was pulled up from this pool. And there's a clip of her in some rap music video. I can't remember what it was, but she was always trying to get work as an entertainer. And I think that she's just really good at acting in a certain way. She knows exactly how to put forward the cruel bulldog stuff, and she can talk really fast. And most importantly, she reads fast. She doesn't read particularly well. And I first thought about this years ago when I wish I could remember what it was about. But I saw her on stage, and she said that this is an uprising within the Republican Party. They're trying to stage a coup. I remember her saying they're trying to stage a coup. And I was like, oh, okay. Someone wrote that, and it's a word she doesn't know, and she mispronounced it. Which, look, fine. That happens. But I was like, okay, that was my first clue. But some genius, some unsung hero has created this Twitter account called, what's it called? It's called, let me see. I think it's called like Candace Owens. I shouldn't have backed out like that. I messed up my fucking flow there. I should start over and go with this thing here. But let me see. It's called Candace Owens Trying to Read. That's what the account is called. And if you're
starving people,
if you guys had to check this out, it is amazing. I'm going to play 3 clips from it. This is a clip from her reading about a Green Beret. All right, here we go. Here's the first one.
An open genocide for starving people. You, in this moment, have retired Green Beret and the former lieutenant colonel, I actually think he's still a lieutenant colonel of the Army, Tony Aguilar. He sat down with Tucker Carlson, and he is describing,
Okay, so I don't know if you guys out there caught that, but she's talking about a Green Beret. And for those of you who English or French is not your first language, beret is spelled B-E-R-E-T, but she said it as Green Beret. Now, look, once again, these mistakes happen. I remember seeing Barack Obama talking one day, and he said that this is a retired Navy corpsman or a Marine corpsman or something. It's corpsman, but look, we all make mistakes. It happens. You read all the time. Here's another one from Candace Owens. This is her trying to say the word kerfuffle. Okay. And so let me play this clip right here.
Prince Harry abdicates England, causes this whole race kerfluffle. Now we've got Nicola Peltz. People were like, is this really over a wedding dress? We knew kerfluffle happened at this billionaire wedding, which pertained to a dress. Okay. Or he decides me and Nicola are going to get married again, this time without my own family, because this dress kerfluffle. We were like, would this really be about a dress?
Bruh.
Okay, and I have another one. There are a lot of things. This is the last one I'm going to use. This is the last one I'm going to use here. But here we go. This is her trying to say the word delegitimize.
Was not coming out of racist ideas, right? It wasn't because people were just trying to delegitimize him. It was because this must just all be crazy rantings every day. Candace is up on this show like Miss Cleo from the 90s and just like predicting what she thinks happened. It's such a ridiculous way to try to delegitimize the research that we have done. Now, I don't know how you're able to comment. She pulled the good old Barack Obama, dropped a book, an autobiography that was meant to legitimize her to the Black public. And everyone that should be using their platforms to try to get to the bottom of what happened to him and asking similar questions is instead calling out Candace Owens and waiting for her to make a mistake so they can try to delegitimize every effort that she is making to get to the bottom of this thing. It just reeks. Was not coming out of racist ideas, right? It wasn't because people were trying to delegitimize.
There, if you go to that Twitter page, Candace Owens trying to read. That is all I needed to know. Kyle wrote here, mispronouncing words isn't necessarily a sign of intelligence. That's true. It doesn't mean you're stupid, but it does mean she is not writing what she's saying. 100% she is not writing what she's saying. She is reading someone else's words she doesn't know how to use, doesn't know how to spell. Otherwise, she would. This is so common. I didn't realize how common this was until you go to that website. It would just have video after video after video of her saying stuff that she clearly didn't write and doesn't know how to say. So after seeing that, I was like, yeah, I think Candace Owens is like, in Europe, they call newscasters news readers because they just sit there and read what's in front of them. That's what Candace Owens does. I don't know who's in charge of writing her scripts, but that's my goal on that one. Yeah. So yeah, what do you think?
Does nobody caught her? Like, does nobody like told her like, yo, like that's not how you say that word? Like nobody on her team, like his ones, like tried to put her on.
That's the thing, like there are words that I definitely mispronounce all the fucking time, and I at least either try to avoid them or own up to it and like try to change over time. The fact that she keeps saying delegitimize
Is
nice. Like how many times it happened over what appeared to be a decent amount of time. Like it looked like there was at least a couple years in between those clips. Like wow, that's pretty impressive.
And she used it in like different ways.
I have thought she's one of the smarter ones, and this is something that I've come around on. And here's my reasoning with it. I didn't think she had anything going for her other than being a token black lady. And when I compare her to the other token minorities in the Republican ecosystem, she seems way smarter than the rest of them.
I agree with that statement for sure.
Speaking of another token minority in the Republican ecosystem, in Ben Shapiro, she went head to head with Ben Shapiro and at the very least didn't lose. And we say that Ben Shapiro is one of the smarter conservative ecosystem people. So I think it was probably lower expectations for me going into Candace Owens. She's someone I tend to try to avoid because unlike some of them, she's a straight up fucking Nazi. She's very fucking anti-Semitic, and so
Yeah.
the Candace Owens and the Nick Fuentes of the world, I see the clips and I just do not go into them.
Engage.
I don't try to learn about them, but like I do. My opinion of Candace Owens has increased. Her stock is up in far as my view of her intelligence over the last couple of years.
I can agree with that statement insofar as you compare her to her contemporary, my model minorities on the rights. I can't even really think of any as sort of prominent, or as like intelligent. And you're right, she's gone toe to toe with Ben Shapiro, and her leaving. What was it? What is it? What is that? Ben
Daily
Shapiro's
Wire.
company. Her leaving the Daily Wire, starting her new thing. I think was one of the most intelligent moves that she's made in a very long time. I'd still say though, like when we're talking about intelligence, like what exactly are we talking about here? Like how are we defining intelligence in relation to the Candace Owenses and the Ben Shapiro's of the Republican Party?
So I actually said this earlier, Ate, before you were on. My definition of intelligence is your RAM. It's your ability to process information quickly and decisively. Whereas wisdom is your general memory. That's your fucking hard drive where it stores all of the information. That is kind of how I view intelligence versus wisdom and knowledge. And so, like, if you have a high rate of intelligence, to me, it means you can quickly process information and deliver correct conclusions. And that, to me, I feel like there's different areas of intelligence, by the way. You can be really good at that in like a mathematics field and really dumb in that in an emotional intelligence field, right? But it's the processing speed that makes you intelligent. And for someone who seems to have gotten enough things right on like the macro level in her career with a lot of headwinds against her, there must be some intelligence there. She seems like she has the finger on the pulse of people more than a lot of others do, and that is a form of intelligence.
Very much agreed. She's got a brain on her head. I think she's even really smarter than, and you've honestly changed my position, because damn, she seems stupid because she says stupid things and does stupid things. But
they all do. Honestly, like, we're going to judge them all on that. That's why I said in the pantheon of the conservative ecosystem.
Right. That makes so much sense. In that regard, I would consider her, probably one of the smarter ones just in general, minority or not. Like I'm thinking about her in relation to her other contemporaries, like the Steven Crowders and the Matt Walshes and the what was that other guy that I'm forgetting all these guys' names because most of them have been irrelevant for so long, with the exception of Michael Knowles, yes, with the exception of Candace Owens, who has managed not only to stay relevant, but interestingly enough, I think where her intelligence lies, like you said, is having her finger on the pulse of the zeitgeist in a way that like almost no other conservative has, because her whole Wicked, like where she was like, talking about the Wicked movie and talking about how Cynthia Erivo and what's her face had like a weird relationship. Ariana Grande. That went so viral and to the complete opposite side of the political sphere that she usually like caters to. Like she has this weird ability to maintain her position both as like a right-wing Nazi in one area and then as also a pop culture commentator in another area. And rarely do they intersect. And rarely do they conflict. She knows the game. I gotta respect it.
I have to admit, yeah, I am surprised. Like I remember like when Candace Owens, first off, if you want to make it somewhere in media or a life, you have to take some gambles. And the gamble she took with that, I think Nazism is going to be the big thing in the next few years. That's a risk. Holy shit. I mean, you need some stones to say,
hindsight 2020. It was obvious the whole time. It
was obvious.
So we
jump on the Nazi train quick enough, TJ.
We can look at it and say that the Republicans have been on a Nazi trajectory. It's funny, like the alt-right pipeline. It's just the right pipeline. That's it. That's where we'll ultimately end up, right? And so, but there was always like an untouchable area that's like, okay, you don't want to actually associate with Nazis. You want to wink and nod to them, but you don't want to go all in on that. You don't want to go the Nick Fuentes route. You don't want to be way out there. Candace is like, no, actually, I
Yes, I
think
do.
I think I do, and I think that it's going to work for me, and it did. And the fact that she still every now and then I'll still see people who aren't politically engaged, like they don't make political content and stuff, and they'll say something like, "Hey, this Candace Owens is making some pretty good points." Hey, like you said, I'd say like, "Hey, this is some pretty good analysis." Like, how is that not the first thing you think of when you hear Candace Owens? Oh yeah, the Nazi bitch. Like how is that not the first
Yeah.
thing that comes to mind whenever you think of Candace Owens? But it's worked for.
Bro, I
So
will explain why. I will
okay, go
explain
for it.
why.
Yeah.
Bro. She's funny. I'm sorry. Here's the thing. When
She
it comes
is.
to this, the
She is.
political realm, the political sphere, I really want to blame like younger, all millennials and all Gen Z for doing this. We have memed ourselves into this Nazi, this explosion of Nazism that we're seeing. Because when shit is funny, it doesn't matter. And I fall victim to this all the time because I say all the time that Trump is the funniest president in U.S.
We say it all the time too, John. We said it earlier today.
Before you joined.
Bro, he's and if it's funny, it gets clicks and it's entertaining because I think what's going on at the very least, like on a neurological level, is that dopamine that we're getting from the funny shit that we're saying, like it's laughter. Ultimately, regardless of what it is you're laughing at, is a positive emotion, and when you're going to start associating positive reactions, positive emotions to really, really awful people, when they do really, really funny shit, they're going to stay popular. Unfortunately, the only way out of that is to not pay attention, and we live in the attention economy, and I think that sort of like the obsession with attention has like infiltrated every aspect of us, of our sociology and our psychology, to a point where somebody like Candace Owens and even Nick Fuentes, who, like, I was having this debate with my friends, I think he's not even like nearly at the height of his popularity. I think in the next 5-10 years, this guy is.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, he's going up. He's going up because he's funny and he's weird and he gets clicks.
Yes, I agree 100% that humor, I mean, like we know from experience, humor is incredibly disarming. You can get really far with someone if you can just get them to crack a smile. If you can get them to laugh, putty in your hands, it's all over. It's done.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad you mentioned Nick Fuentes because that's one of his abilities too. He's funny. He's an entertainer. Fuentes also has like a weird. Nick Fuentes shouldn't work. Nick Fuentes should not work at all. Like Candace Owens, I look at the ingredients to this recipe. I'm like, okay, a beautiful woman, a black conservative. She has like she's a Serb and she's a dog and she's a fighter, but she's also funny. She also makes she has this weird everyman thing of like, what's going on with the chemtrails? And people are like, oh yeah, what is going on? A beautiful woman, please tell me. Yeah, that I can see. I get why she works. Nick Fuentes, for the life of me, if you just brought me like his resume and said, yeah, there's this guy named Nick Fuentes who's a Nazi, surprise, named Nick Fuentes is a Nazi, and then he's gonna be talking about how fucking gay he is and how he's a virgin. Yeah, I was just like, no, this should. And then you tell me, but he's kind of funny. I was like, that's not gonna rescue him. It did, and he spent years on the periphery of the right-wing movement. He was always the fringe guy that every conservative you talk to would say, well, we don't take Nick Fuentes seriously. Charlie Kirk had a beef with Nick Fuentes for a long time. And when Charlie Kirk assumed room temperature last year, he was a lot closer to Nick Fuentes than he was 5 years earlier, right? Like he moved closer to the Nazis. Yeah, not the other way around. So it is weird that Nick Fuentes worked, and Candace, I got to give it to her. She had the foresight, and this is the future of the conservative movement right here. I'm going to cozy up to these folks as much as I can. So got to give her credit there. That's absolutely true.
So this is actually, I think this like exemplifies it perfectly. Is that Nick Fuentes? I don't think is smart. I look at Nick Fuentes and I'm like, I don't think that's a very smart guy. I don't think the reason that he appeals is necessary because it's funny. Because I actually don't think he's all that funny either. He's fine baseline and funny, but not like particularly this dude's a funny guy like I feel like about Trump. The thing that Nick Fuentes does, the reason that Nick Fuentes works is because he is the epitome of a type of person that exists in large numbers online. Nick Fuentes is the final boss of 4chan. Like, he's the personification of that website. And that is why he's just the largest, the most appealing of that type of person. And he is all of it. He genuinely is deep immersed into that fucking incel culture. And he is just the most presentable face to the general public of incel culture. There's far worse than Nick Fuentes in that community. And he is just the most normal facing, and he wasn't for a long time. And the Overton window shifted just to include him on the outside of it, and it's going this way. Candace Owens shifted towards him because she saw that's where it was going. Not that she happened to be there and the Overton window happened.
I see what you're saying. He waited for the culture to move towards him.
And I will be right back, but I will keep listening.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. He waited for the culture to move towards him. Whereas Candace Owens moved along with the culture further right. What my question is in that regard is what was it about him that succeeded where a figure like Milo Yiannopoulos failed? Because you remember the 2016 culture war. And man, looking back, God, those guys were fucking communists compared to who we're dealing with today. And we had some figures like the things that are being normalized and said now. It makes me confused as to how Milo Yiannopoulos got himself canceled for saying he was okay. What was it? He got himself canceled because he was okay.
He said that he thought people were making too big a deal out of Catholic priests molesting kids because when he was a teenager, he had an older man as a lover, and it guided him the right way, and that maybe it's not as bad as people are making it out to be, and they canceled him for it.
Man, if he had said that today, gang, he would have been celebrated. That would have been the coolest shit anybody'd ever. And so, what makes a figure like Milo Yiannopoulos different from Nick Fuentes, and how in the longevity of their career do you think?
Maybe Milo was too gay. I think like I think that was it. Maybe Milo was just a touch too gay. Like Fuentes is an incel who kind of jokes about being gay, and Milo's like, "Oh no, I love fucking cock. It's like one of my favorite things to do." Gay. And then he had to turn. Because really, you're right. Like as far as like what they say, it's pretty similar, and they love Milo for a short bit. But you go too far with the whole pederast thing. But that's gonna dial down too. I mean, look, what do we? John and I talk about this all the time about the Epstein stuff and how they're gonna have to start, making some sort of a cogent argument about Trump still, 40 days out, not releasing 99% of the Epstein files. And I think they're going to focus on, this is a big deal out of nothing. Maybe Epstein wasn't so bad. All the girls were 17 anyway. I think that's what you're going to end up focusing on because there's really no other way out from this
we're getting deep into normalizing pedophilia territory for the it's well underway. It's actually kind of terrifying because it's going to work.
Nick Fuentes, that's one of his things. Like Nick Fuentes, he's openly said, it should be legal to marry 16-year-old girls in every state because that's when they're the most fertile. That's when you can lock them down. That's when you have the most influence on them. And I don't think that we're too far from that at all. All right, we only have half an hour left. Jesus, I don't know if Lamont's joining.
It is only like just kind of a jump and a skip.
From
like the standard conservative view of
it is
really. No fault divorce. We can't have that. We need to, like you said, like lock them down. It's just kind of the natural conclusion of that mindset of
even Matt Walsh has said
Walsh has said that plenty of times.
Like it's hopping a skip is really an understatement. It's really just like a step, like a nice little shimmy forward, and then they're just deep in it.
I am 100% sure it's going to work because here's the argument they're going to put forth, which is true. It's uncomfortable, but it's true. The age of consent is 100% arbitrary. It's 100% arbitrary. Like there is no actual definitive reason it has to be 18. It wasn't for a long time. A lot of states it's not 18 today. A lot of states it is 16. So over time we decided, okay, everyone can kind of agree on what's too young, right? Like no one's going to argue for a 3-year-old age of consent, right? That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And they say, okay, well, how about 40? Okay, that's too old. It's got to be somewhere in there. And so we're thinking, okay, all right, the age when we claim someone is an adult and they can make their own decision, that seems right. But they're like, well, okay, we let 16-year-old drives. Why not let them get married and have sex? We did it before. Society didn't crumble. I can easily see them making this argument and it convincing a lot of conservatives. There's no way that I think this is going to be just rejected out of hand, especially when you start talking about the fact that we're having fewer and fewer kids and that they're worried about not having enough workers. We already saw, I'll tell you, we talked about last year in the show that in South Korea, someone proposed that they should send girls to school 2 years early. You saw that?
Yeah, I remember that. I remember talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think that that's going to be a fringe conservative idea any time in the distant future, which is going to dial down the Epstein stuff. Like, so, yeah, I see it. So anyway, we only got half an hour left, so I wanted to get to this. So Ate, you are from Minnesota, and
I live in Minneapolis.
So, okay, so we wanted to talk to you specifically about what's going on there. I wanted to show this commercial. I don't know who aired it. I forgot. Maybe I'll show at the end. But I thought this is a pretty powerful commercial. Oh, here comes Lamont. Let me get him on here. Lamont, thanks for joining us, man.
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
We're doing all right. We're doing all right. All right. We have another guest here, Destructo Jugo. He lives in Minneapolis, and we're about to hop into some of the stuff going on up there in the land of 10,000 lakes. But I wanted to share this commercial and get you guys' reaction. We'll start with Ate, but I think this is some pretty good stuff that whoever did this worked on.
Okay. I had a really good time today.
Yeah, me too. I really look.
What are you doing? She's coming with us. What are you talking about? Who are you? I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're rounding up illegals. She was born here. She's a citizen. I don't care. She looks like one of them. Don't worry. When she's in prison in El Salvador, she'll have lots of company.
Oh, Lord. The homegrowns are next. Damn.
Progress Action Fund is who did that. All right. Yeah. So I loved how they did that because, you know, these days you need to do things that jump and get people's attention. But then I thought about it, it's like, that's not far from the truth at all. Like, that's exactly what's going on. That's exactly the response Republicans are going to give. So can you give us, an on the ground representation of what you've seen so far these last couple of months?
Yeah, to start out, that's not only is that not far from the truth, it's not even far enough. Like, I don't know, like I would have, if I were to make it, you know, there's really no like ad you can make to reflect the reality of what's going on here that would be in any way hyperbole. Like, you could have an ad where a fucking kid gets like yanked by the ankles out of his home, 6 years old, crying fucking tears of blood, and I would tell you about a story that happened last week, right? Like, so that's kind of the stage that I want to set. Before I talk about like what's been going on in Minneapolis, is that I don't know how much people from out of Minneapolis like are getting, or people from out of Minnesota are getting in terms of like the stories that are happening here. But I'm only 25 years old, so maybe I'm not old enough, but I have never experienced anything like this in my life. It feels legitimately like an occupation in the truest sense of the word. There are operations that are happening as we speak right now. They're happening every single day. ICE is rapidly changing their tactics regularly. This started back in December. I think it was largely early December. It was largely it happened largely because of this like weird viral controversy that went on with like the Somali fraud stuff that was going on. I don't know too much about that. I do know that there were some companies with Somali employees that were doing fraud. I remember at least one of them, the actual ringleader was a white woman, but that's besides the point. We had an influx of ICE agents, and they started going after the Somali community and the Latino community in Minneapolis. And it got really bad really quickly. People were being kidnapped on the streets. They were being stopped on the roads. There's this thing called the Carmel Mall, which is like essentially like the Somali mall in Minneapolis. It's in one of the one of the parts of Minneapolis that has the highest population of Somali. I actually used to live there before I moved to Uptown. But yeah, there were raids going on regularly, and I think things ramped up really just this month in January when they brought in 2,000 more troops, and by that point, the number of federal ICE agents operating within the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul outnumbered both the Minneapolis police and the St. Paul police force. And these guys, they're 5, 6, 7 of them making a single arrest. They drive around in big black unmarked vehicles, no license plates, no nothing. They wear masks. They carry Call of Duty weapons. It's not no pistols in their hands or anything like that. And the whole point of this campaign has been largely shock and awe. It's kind of insane, right? Like that's really the only reason why, like for every single arrest they make, there's 6, 7, 8 of them. It started out, like I said, that they were pulling people over. There actually was a phenomenon just last a few weeks, and it's pretty still now, of like ghost cars, of when people on the highways and on the streets of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the surrounding suburbs would just be pulled out of their cars and detained, and the cars would just be left there. And you could drive down the 94 and you could see ghost cars. There are stories. I have coworkers at my job who are from Ecuador, and they have all their papers and everything, absolutely scared to leave the house. The people are not going into work. I mean, I could speak about this forever. It has been genuinely terrifying, especially after the murder of Renee Good, which happened just a couple blocks away. And then the murder of Mr. Pretti, whose first name I forgot, also happened. Alex Pretti, whose murder happened just a couple blocks away as well. The one positive thing I can say about this situation, really the only positive thing, is that I've never seen the Minnesota community like connected in this way. Even now, there's like some streets that are just kind of blocked off where they're just like mutual aid depots where you can find anything: food, gloves, blankets. There are always people there. Some residents have started to arm themselves, and virtually like everybody I know in the real world is not only against this, but is like willing to help in any way, shape, or form. And the reason I say that is because what I've realized is that in a situation like this, it seems like online, there's this like 50-50, half people are in support of this, half people. I know Trump voters, people who openly said they voted for Trump, who are so against this. So it's been real scary times. It really, really has been, especially, because I myself, even though I'm a US citizen, I'm an immigrant. So it's been really scary times for me. I have friends whose family members have been taken. I have a friend whose father is being what they've started to do now, because they can't go directly in homes, at least not en masse, is they've started to literally just hunt. What I mean by that is they will stake you out of your house 2 days, 3 days, 4 days before they move on to the next person. But in those 2-3 days, they will watch for your routines. They will see where you go. They will wait for the perfect moment to snatch you up. And they've infiltrated all the rapid response groups. They've infiltrated the community organizations. They are switching up their tactics. Now they're roaming around in civilian clothing. They're being a lot more careful with the types of vehicles they use. They're putting like little little things on top of the cars to make them look like civilian vehicles. It is, like I said, a full-scale occupation, by the federal government. And unfortunately, our mayor and our governor are doing nothing about it. Virtually nothing.
Jesus, yeah, that is a harrowing account from just seeing it just right in front of you on the streets, and everything like that. The fact that these folks are operating like this, like you said, I know that there's the meme that says Trump is using his terror squads to abduct people in unmarked vans, and little responses, mark the vans. I know that's like a big liberal thing,
Yeah.
but really, it is like bad movie level shit. Like, Lamont, have you ever seen anything like this in your travels, like being active in politics, just being a U.S. citizen? When's the last time you can think of seeing something like this?
I can't. I've never seen it in 45 years. And I don't know what was going on when I was in my mama's womb, but I've never seen this. Now, I do have an ICE story. They did come to North Carolina, and thankfully that mayor allowed the police to oppose ICE. And it didn't take them long to leave North Carolina. But on the way, they stopped up here by where I was at. My daughter is in a Spanish immersion program in kindergarten where she's learning to speak Spanish, so a lot of her friends are Spanish. I'm pulling up by a car wash. I happen to see one of my daughter's friends' mother with the son there. Now, mind you, this mother is fine. I look across the street. Because of the things I've done in my life, I know exactly what an unmarked vehicle looks like with a bunch of January 6th douchebags in them. I see them coming. I get to the car wash before they do. I tell her, I was like, look, I think that these guys are about to fuck with you. I just want you to get your phone out. And if I need to grab Lucas, that's the name of her son, I'm going to grab him to protect us all. And she was like, what's going on? What's going on? So they pull up, roll down the window. Your typical, I want to have some power. I'm part of the lonely male epidemic, ICE people. They tell me to move. I said, I'm not moving. They said, well, this ain't got nothing to do with you. And if you don't want it to have anything to do with you, you need to move. I said, I'm not moving. You're not going to bother this woman and her son. And so they said, well, son, we just going to have to get out the car and do something. And that's when I said, okay, get out the car. And that's when I told mom, give me your son. So I picked up her son and held him right in my face. And I said, if y'all going to do something to me, you're going to do something to this little boy who happens to be 5 and is going to be on camera and is being streamed to a fucking cloud. They backed off. They called me a couple of cuss words. They even threw out the N word, but they left. So to Destruction Jungo, I can't begin to know the terror and horror you're having to live through every day, because that was just one small microcosm of a bunch of really punks. These literally are the punks that went to January 6th that would never fight any 4 of us one-on-one. They would never do that, let alone try to deal with us without a weapon, let alone try to deal with us if it's just 2 of their dumbasses. It would take 6 of them to deal with us. And these are the people we've got running around here who are unqualified. Some of them got criminal backgrounds, terrorizing people. And on top of that, they're still defending a pedophile who tells me that they are pedophiles. And you don't even want to begin to know some of the intel I got about what's going on in those concentration camps. It is horrible.
I can imagine.
Yikes, Jesus. Yeah,
I'm not already to learn about all of the horrors. If this is, and I know people are like saying this is not some unique take here, but it's something that I repeatedly am posting is, if you see what they're lying to you about, or the videos that you see with your own eyes and ears, just imagine what is happening.
I can't.
In these behind locked doors.
Yeah.
So that same lady who I helped out, who her son has been friends with my daughter since like 2 years old, and they just happened to get into the same program. She has got friends that are in these concentration camps that are here legally. And one of those friends they took one of the friends that had a 2-year-old child. They basically made this woman sign like some kind of memorandum to get her child back, that if we rape you, you can't tell nobody. Jesus. That's what they're doing down to these people down there. They're taking their children, holding the children ransom, forcing the adults to do God knows what with God knows who don't deserve God knows anything, to force people's hand. And it's pathetic. It's sick. And I'm like you, DJ. We need, where the hell is the Democrats that's supposed to be putting up the resistance? That's all I got to say.
I don't, you know, what's crazy is that, like, this is something that I'm not sure what the outside perception on our mayor, Jacob Frey, is. I remember that video of him being like, ICE, get the fuck out, came out, and it was incredibly viral. And, you know, there were lots of people being like, oh, Minneapolis' mayor is so cool. He said a swear word on television. This guy's fucking useless. He has been since George Floyd. I mean, he He cooperates with law enforcement. He is somebody that has never actually had any real backbone in a crisis like this, which is unsurprising. We've been trying to get Mayor Frey out of his position for a very long time. What is surprising, and I think what has broken the heart of a lot of Minnesotans, is the weakness of Governor Tim Walz. That's something that I think, to me, has been incredibly shocking, because there are a million trillion things he could do outside of even galvanizing what is the army? The
National Guard.
National Guard. Yeah.
There are people begging for an eviction moratorium. Still no word on that. There are people begging for updates, daily press conferences to assure the Minnesotan people about what he's doing. Still no word on that. There are people asking for him to use his power as governor to like catch these ICE officers, to obstruct them, to ask Mayor Frey to obstruct these ICE officers in any way they could. There's a million trillion ways the mayor of Minneapolis could use the power at his discretion to obstruct the ICE officers from carrying out their duties. That does not necessarily include arresting them or anything like that. We could get their vehicles towed. We can have the streets blocked. We can make it difficult for them to maneuver. At the very least, we don't have to help them when there are large crowds of people. Though, like, after the murder of Alex Pretti and after the murder of Renee Good, the police were sent out in both those instances to help the federal ICE agents in like quelling the unrest, because both of those situations turned into really like standoffs. Like there's like a standoff between the ICE agents and the members of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the surrounding suburbs pretty much every day now. I mean, the amount of like news and video footage and stuff that is happening, it's being circulated throughout the cities, is almost mind-numbing. And it feels weird because most of us still go to work and we still pay our rents. So we're living in this weird middle ground.
Yeah, the Tim Walz thing, I don't think we've talked about it on the show yet, John. Last year, we glazed Tim Walz a lot on the show as this guy could be, if not the future, a harbinger for the future of the Democratic Party, of what it could look like. We thought he had a lot of potential and everything. And then, what was it, last month or earlier this month, I saw all these news reports of Tim Walz after the Somali daycare scandal, a nothing scandal, by the way. It's nothing. Really funny to me that Donald Trump has every other week there's a new Donald Trump scandal that would tank every president that existed before him. That I held this crypto coin dinner where billionaires can pay me all this untraceable money. Trust me, they're not bribes though. I mean, every day this fucking happens, and conservatives have the balls to be hand-wringing about, too much money going to these daycares. Whether like I said, a lot of it was illegal shit, but it is a drop in the fucking bucket to what they accept every day. And then Tim Walz gets pressure from this and says, "Yeah, I'm throwing in the towel. I'm done. I'm never running for public office again." And I'm sure you guys saw the same thing. I just saw article after article after press release saying, "Wow, we really respect Tim Walz." No, are you kidding me? Like, we need you more than ever. You're just gonna drop it because the water was turned. Yeah, this is a dirty game you got involved in. Okay, like people get threats, people get. Their lives are in danger, or their careers are in danger. You knew this. You were in the fucking army, man. I don't know. I am shocked. I am genuinely shocked, not only how much Tim Walz has folded, but how much of a pass he seems to be getting from a lot of people. I'm not surprised to hear Ate say this, but I've seen more than a few people saying that, "Oh, what are you going to do? This is, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ate."
Oh, no. You're absolutely right. I have arguments with my brother all the time about this. And he works at the Keith Ellison's Attorney General office, and he's really just a liberal through and through. And he, his hands are tied. The Democrats are doing what they best. I know one thing that recently that happened was that there was a hearing between in the courts to have like the ICE officers thrown out, and from what I understand, the federal government did not send in like very good attorneys. They were almost late.
Shocking.
Yeah, and some of them had very little experience, and it really went badly for them. And so there's a little bit of hope that the judge could grant, could force the exit of the ICE agents. And for me, I I'm much more pessimistic about the state of things right now, because if the federal government doesn't care, and like it's not like they don't have good lawyers. So if the federal government doesn't care enough to send good lawyers to defend why they need to be in Minneapolis, it means that regardless of what the judge says, they're probably not going to listen, like they've been doing the entire time. And there are a lot of liberals, and circling back to what you were talking about, there are a lot of liberals that are holding on to this weird idea that the system that was the liberal system of checks and balances still works, that we just need to wait for the right time. We just need to tackle them in the courts. We just need to, and it's that type of thinking that has held back a lot of like progress. Like that's the same reason Tim Walz isn't doing anything substantial, is because he's trying to fight these battles in the courts the nice way, the respectful way, and he's tweeting and saying, Donald Trump, this isn't you, baby. I know this isn't you.
This isn't you. This isn't the Donald Trump I know. This isn't the man I campaigned against last year. And you know what's really sad about this is that I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. This is after the, well, let's be real, murder by the federal government of Good and Pretti last week, and it was like, look, we gotta say it here that the whites are putting in the work. All right, they're getting out there. All right, and they are really trying to stand up to this. To have Tim Walz fold after that is incredibly insulting to their memory. And John and I were talking about this. I got a clip I'm going to play from our favorite podcaster, Joe Rogan, here, because Ate, you mentioned that a lot of Trump supporters are against this too. What I've noticed is, well, the hemming and hawing that they're doing to support this right now, or criticize it. It sounds a lot like what Joe Rogan is saying right here. And I'm going to toss it to John after this to get his thoughts.
Regardless of how you feel, I don't feel like that guy should have been shot, but I understand what happened. And what happened was chaos. So first of all, it wasn't ICE. People need to understand that. It was Customs Border Patrol people. So they were brought in to assist ICE. And
huge difference, by the way. Customs and Border Patrol and ICE, part of the Department of Homeland Security, people out there specifically to assist ICE agents. Good thing we made that distinction, Joe.
They're telling this lady to stand away, and then this cop gets very aggressive and shoves her. You have to understand the situation that they're in, right? And this is not making an excuse for any of it, but you have to just put.
He's not going to make excuses for it, but how much you want to bet this is going to sound a lot like an excuse? Let's see how it goes.
Put it into context. These people are getting harassed outside of any hotel they're at. People blow horns. They try to smash into the hotel.
They dox them.
That's why they're wearing masks. It's a coordinated effort. I'm not saying that guy should have shoved that guy. I don't think he should have. Or that woman. I don't think he should have. And then pepper sprayed. And then the guy who got shot, Pretti, he steps in, which is, if you know anything about concealed carry, if you are a concealed carry holder and you are carrying not just a pistol, but 2 full magazines as well, you do not ever physically engage with someone. You also are supposed to carry your license on you, and you're supposed to have ID on you. All
right, John, I'll throw it to you first in here. Does that sound a lot like what you hear whenever people on the right, whenever they're trying to criticize what happened up in Minnesota?
Yes, it is. And it's so clear and obvious what's happening here, right? Joe's not wrong to say that when you are concealed, like, I'll give it to you, when you're concealed carrying, you have a higher level of responsibility to keep yourself and others safe, whatever. I said the same thing about Kyle Rittenhouse. Like, yeah, he shouldn't have brought that gun to the protest. It's dangerous to carry a gun to a protest, and you need to be aware of that. In this situation, he's talking about this in slow motion. There was like a second tops between when the ICE officer shoved the woman to the ground for no fucking reason, and that he stepped in and then he got pepper sprayed. If you are going to make the argument that this random civilian needs to know better because he's concealed carrying, that in that split second needs to be able to make a better decision, Why are you not holding these highly trained officers of the law, public servants, to the same fucking standard? Because if this random civilian who is just standing there on the street, practicing his legal First Amendment protected right to film law enforcement, he watches a woman right next to him get shoved to the ground and goes to help her. That's what you're telling me is the bar for, oh, well, he fucked up. He shouldn't have done that. But the ICE agent who shoved this woman to the ground for no fucking reason, that person doesn't deserve criticism here. The person you employ to keep us safe, that person who's supposed to be highly trained, that the level of responsibility that they are placing on the protesters is higher than the level of responsibility they are placing on trained law enforcement officers. You'll see it in every single argument they're making, and it should be immediately disqualifying to anyone with a brain. Real quick, before I jump to someone else, I did want to comment on Tim Walz, because what you guys are saying is very true. And I think it's just kind of emblematic of where a lot of American liberals are at right now. In that, and honestly, I feel the same way. I feel the same way all the fucking time, where I'm like, shit, it sucks to admit what's happening, because I don't want to live in a country where masked federal agents are running around in unmarked vans, disappearing people off the streets. I want to live in a country where that commercial that we showed at the beginning of this segment is a hyperbole. I don't want to admit that I'm living in a country where that is going on right now, where Ate is in the middle of a war zone in America. I don't want to admit it. And half the time in my life, I just go around pretending it's not happening, because what the fuck else am I going to do? And Tim Walz, I think Tim Walz is a good guy. I really, really deep down, I think he's just a genuinely good guy who got into politics for the right reasons to help people. And you see that through and through in the way that he talks. And what he's being met with are people who are not playing the same game as he is. And he's like, fuck, I can't do this anymore, guys. I'm taking my ball and going home. And like, on one end, I can't blame him. I get why he's doing what he's doing. On the other hand, it's still very fucking disappointing. It's very disappointing to see our leaders just totally fold when there is still shit they can do well within their legal rights to do to obstruct and make life as difficult as possible for the federal agents who are going around kidnapping people. And they're choosing not to do it because they
Walz
don't
is a
want
good
to
guy.
They live in a world where that might be necessary.
He's just weak, and really, like, we have no room for weak leaders, like, right now, like, at all. Like, I can't give him any grace. Like, it's not 2014. Like, we have no room for it anymore. There's just no space for it.
Look, on the show on Tuesday, what I was talking about is that, so we had that thing where people protested in the church and they called the cops and the cops came in and arrested them. And I said, Tim Walz should pardon every fucking person that protested in that church got arrested by the cops. Like, blanket state pardon for anyone involved there. I don't give a shit if they actually broke any laws. You know why? Because what we need to be doing, what would Donald Trump be doing if he was governor of a red state right now and there was any remotely similar crackdown held from the blue side of the aisle? That's what he would do. That's what he did with January 6th, right? Something 1,000 times worse. Like Ate said, we're not playing the same game here. And you brought up a good point, both of you guys, with Walz, in that he's leaving, right? So since he's leaving, now's the fucking time, man. If you're not running for re-election again, what are you afraid of? This is a long time ago. There was Roy Moore. It was the name, a senator in Alabama, I think. And he was running for re-election. And a news story came out that back when he was like in his late 20s or early 30s or something like that, he had a sexual relationship with a 14-year-old girl. And that hit the news like right in the middle of it. You remember that, Lamont? And so that hit the election campaign. And surprisingly, it wouldn't happen today, but surprisingly, his poll numbers just tanked. And Democrats started salivating. They said, whoa, we have a chance to pick up a blue Senate seat in Alabama. Like, that hasn't happened in like 80 years. And so the Democrats are really excited. I think the guy's name was Doug Wilson. And they started putting a lot of money into Doug Wilson to become senator, and he won. And we had a Democrat seat in Alabama for those 6 years. And the guy governed like a middle of the road Democrat. I remember thinking, buddy, what are you doing? You are not winning re-election. Okay. This is a flash in a pan, lightning in a bottle. You just happen to be at the right place at the right time. You should be fucking Vladimir Lenin with everything you were putting forth, right? This is what Wall should be doing. Like, Wall has already been pushing the envelope with great stuff here. If he came out tomorrow and said, yeah, those guys who protested the ICE people at the church, pardon, they're good. Back on the road, guys. Keep up the good work. You go with God, go with my blessing. Even if you don't run for re-election, you could still do a hell of a lot of good. Like you said, I'm activating the National Guard. Any immigrants that are seeking help, go to the National Guard. We will protect you. Like, under my authority as governor of the state, we're going to protect the good people and immigrants of this, the state of Minnesota. And please let ICE try to get in the way. And John, you mentioned that these people, these trained officers and everything, and how, you know, they're not really all that trained and everything. One thing that bothers me is Joe Rogan in that clip. He mentioned that the cop, no, they're cops. Don't call them cops. Oddly enough, you're besmirching the name of cops of all people, whatever. And what bothers me, Lamont, I'll ask you about this one. The term doxing that they keep using for these folks, these federal agents, these people who work for the American people, they said, well, you can't dox these people. What are you talking about? This isn't James Bond here. These are people just working a regular job in the United States. Why are we afraid of doxing them? Yeah, Lamont, what do you think?
They're full of shit. Period. I mean, the whole reason we have a Second Amendment is to protect us from what they're doing to us right now. That's why we have the Second Amendment. I used to be a whole lot of Martin. Now I'm a whole lot of Malcolm. And I do not ride around anymore without my gun. I used to just, hey, dude, I am so let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that before they be done call me a black terrorist. They're full of shit. Megyn Kelly, who looked like she robbed a horse, actually was defending what happened to Alex Pretti just the other day. She was defending it. She was saying that if you don't want to get shot, don't go out there. I'm thinking to myself, bitch, have you even been to a protest? Have you even been somewhere where the word P is in it that's not a nail salon? It kills me that these people of privilege like her, like Joe Rogan, on the right, try to thread the needle to sound like they have some empathy, like Joe Rogan just did. I'm going to say all this, then I'm going to say, but. Dude, I have no respect for any of them, TJ, because if you was okay with January 6th, what the fuck is you doing talking about Alex Pretti and Renee Good? You should be supporting them. Because what happened on the Capitol is 10 times as worse as what they're doing. Instead, you put the spider monkeys that was hanging off the Capitol into the Homeland Security and into ICE, and then you quadruple the budget for this because you're in bed with these tech oligarchs who are making all this money. I'm disgusted. I'm sick. I'm thinking about I might go and organize with the Black Panthers because I can't handle no more of this, TJ. I'm sick.
Yeah, this is not something that I really thought about until now, you know, being in my 20s and having gone through, like, being in Minnesota for both George Floyd and having gone to that protest and then being in this situation, is that, you know, for all of the catastrophes that happen in various communities across the United States that like end up like on the national news that are become the, you know, the topic of discourse and discussion. You know, when you like Flint, Michigan, or like Katrina, or, you know, sort of any catastrophe in modern American history, there is the general conversation about it. And being in the situation, like being one of the members affected by the actual situations, it feels so surreal because I've lost patience for the discussions themselves. Like, I didn't see that Joe Rogan clip because I don't give a fuck about that Joe Rogan clip. Joe Rogan's not in Minneapolis. Joe Rogan's not in Minnesota. It truly does not matter what he's saying, except it does. And that's really the worst part, because America as a whole is still stuck on the discourse, the conversation part of what's going on. Whenever something happens like this, whenever ICE murders somebody, what we do is we talk about it. and then we talk about it.
Yep.
We get on our
Yep.
podcast.
Yep.
We get on our not talking about you guys specifically, but
No, you're talking about
that's
us.
true.
Totally
It's
okay.
true. It's true. Yes, it's true.
Yeah,
It's-
Totally reasonable.
Like
We
you
chatted
should
about
have
it.
been up here one time. Me and TJ was talking about all this talk and no action. What are we doing? I distinctly remember me and TJ said that. What the fuck are we talking about? We've been
We chat.
talking since we came off the boat. We need to
I
talk,
said-
get the plan in place, and then execute. Talk and
Yeah,
execute.
it is getting to that point. I said a long time ago that if I had any real courage, I'd have been dead. That's if I had any actual courage, I would not be here. And it's like, but it's getting to the point where you're going to have to. It's like this is my little thing, but I always rant about people who brag about how courageous they are being in the American military. And I got all these awards, bro. Yeah, you fought a bunch of people who went Soviet technology. Half of them were illiterate. Very good. So proud of you that you survived. Like you stormed Normandy or some shit. But all right, we ran a little bit over, guys. Sorry about that, but John, you want any final thoughts before we close things out here?
Yeah, no, this has been a wonderful show. I would love to have both Lamont and Ate on again together. This has been a wonderful grouping, right?
Yeah, it's been great. Yeah,
Absolutely.
And I was like, it was great when Ate was on, and then when Lamont joined, I was like, shit, I can't believe we only have 30 minutes of this group of four. So we got time to get both of you back on at the same time.
For sure.
Change is coming to the show, by the way. So we're starting to hint at this now to our audience. So be prepared for some announcements coming through. But before then, we'll start with Ate. If people want to know where to find you, where can they do it?
Oh yeah. You can find me at my social media handle right there at DestructoJugo on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Actually, I'm gonna shameless plug. I have been spending this is just a personal project I've been working on. I spent the last 6 months learning French, learning another language, and I documented the whole thing. And I am, editing it right now. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do that as soon as we get off. And I'm going to release, it's going to be like a short film documentary of my process of learning French. It's not really going to be about, it's going to be about learning French, but on a more thematic and narrative level, it's going to be about how I had to overcome. I'm not going to spoil it. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to figure it out. But it's coming out on Sunday, the 1st of February. So, keep that in mind. Stay locked in on the Instagram and on TikTok, and don't miss the premiere. So yeah, that's all.
All right, and Lamont, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Get a Life Game. You can find me on TikTok, Get a Life Game 1. And of course, you can find me on YouTube. But more importantly, you need to continue to keep finding these three brothers right here. I commend DJ being as young as he is, being as courageous as he is. If I had an ounce of his charisma when I was 25, we might have a whole lot of women that would be smiling nowadays and not upset. I commend TJ and John for always accepting me, and I'm so sorry I couldn't get here. It snowed in North Carolina. It's been a thing with the kids. I'm getting divorced. It's been a mess, and I appreciate you guys just thinking of me. So I'm grateful to them, and I would highly encourage the audience. You're not going to find a finer group of three men than John, DJ, and TJ. Stick with them.
Fantastic. That was great, man. We thank you very much for that, folks. Just want to
You got to do introductions from now on.
I know, right? Yeah, start writing resumes and stuff for everybody here. But all right, thank you guys for joining. We appreciate it. Today's episode is sponsored by Guns. Buy one. We'll catch you guys later. Have a good day.
All right.